late night television shows, these talk shows with Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon, and I don't know who else does those things, but it's interesting to me because in my day, staying up late watching those shows, it was Johnny Carson. You never knew what Carson's politics were, but there is no question about the politics of these guys that do these shows now. And I think it really is sad because they're kind of telling their audience how they should think. And it takes some of the fun away from, it takes those shows and makes them something different from what they used to be.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. Fly me to the moon.
You know, that's kind of true with everything nowadays, right?
Yeah. Maybe.
Everyone's got like that agenda or that theory on life and they're trying to push it, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think our whole society has kind of become one way or the other, and it gets a little bit
frustrating.
Yeah, frustrating as well as a little tense sometimes.
Right.
You know, you almost have to say, okay, we're not going to talk about politics because invariably somebody is going to think differently than you do. And it's something, this is a new concept and it hasn't always existed. You know, there was a time when and I don't know it intimately, but Congress, those people would work with each other across the aisle. I don't think that happens anymore. In fact, I think it's so extreme one way or the other that it scares me for the future of our country. Right.
And the fact of this is like you go to dinner and you're like, well, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, don't talk about all these things. And you're like, why not? Those are like the most important things to talk about.
Yeah, and you can't do it.
And you can't do it.
Yeah,
so,
it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that that's why we're kind of here. We're coming together and we're bridging gaps and talking as a community to try to bring everyone together as one.
Yeah, with no politics involved.
Right. And I think our guest today, it's Brenda Day, so that's Brenda exciting. Day. And she's had involvement in that, so that's a really good topic that you just brought up. And you know, today we're here with a great team. We've got Dan, myself, Bill, Andrea, Jake, Jason on the he's our engineer here at Sweetwater. So I think it's.
He got a new haircut today. It looks great too.
It does. Mm-hmm. So you guys can't see that, but maybe we'll take a picture and then post it. No. Yeah. But I kind of wanted to see what everybody's up to. I mean, we talk to each other every month on this show, but what's been happening? What's been going on with people?
Well, in the words of Brian Regan, I'm just trying to get through life without looking too stupid. And it's not working out very well.
You look pretty good right now.
Well, yeah, thank you. It's a daily challenge.
Right. Well, I was texting you guys and I was like, you know, the most interesting thing happened in my work the other day. We as a family bought Braille Laser, and of course we have other companies and everything, and we go in and we have this meeting with everybody, and everyone's a male. And it's and I was like, well, that's different from all the other companies we have. And so a few years pass and all I get is male resumes coming in. I'm like, what's going on? And you know, I'm in the steel business, right? So I was like, maybe it's that. But last week we hired 3 females, and just to see how it goes. And my production manager comes up to me and they go, you know, we only have a male restroom. And I go, well, let's fix that. So we fixed that, and these 3 females came in, and they are out producing every single male in the whole shop.
Way to go, girls.
I know, right? So I just thought that was, you know, I was like, heck yeah, like let's change it up a little bit, and it worked, and it's working. And all the, you know, so that's my little thing that happened this most recently.
How are the guys dealing with it? Is it a hard adjustment for the guys out there on the?
I feel like they feel a little bit of a push. They're like, instead of me coming out there and saying, hey, you know, you got to get an efficiency and stuff like that, they just see it. They're like, oh, I got to pick my game up or I'm going to be not here.
Well, I can tell you, we have all women on our staff except for me. So
Also, it's
because they do the work better than guys. And I hate to say it, but it's true. And so we have an office full of females, and they're all phenomenal.
yeah.
I couldn't do it any other way. It wouldn't work.
Yeah. Jake, what do you got going on in life? You know, I know you got a dog and everything, and his name's Steve. Have you ever like been just hanging out and said, "Hey, my roommate's Steve," and someone's like, "Oh, you have a roommate?" It's a
No, not necessarily. I think it's mainly when I'm walking by people, just like out in public with him, and then he's very curious little guy, and he'll like go and sniffing on him. I'm like, "Hey, Steve, get back!" And people are just like, "Is his name Steve?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and it's Steven when he's in trouble. I'm like, "Come, get back!" And they always think that's so funny because I don't know why people always think, "Oh, that's a human name." I'm like, it's a name. He is named after Steve Irwin, which is a human, but yeah.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a little 12-pound Shih Tzu, Shih Tzu, mini poodle mix.
Love it. Jason, now I got to ask you, what's been going on here at the studio? Anything crazy?
I've been working on a lot of projects recently. I wouldn't say anything crazy per se. One interesting thing, I just bought a cassette recorder for myself personally. I'm going to try to do some more creative recordings without a computer. So that'd be the first time in my life I'm recording without something in the computer. So
Wow, interesting.
Is it an old one that you found? Or
yeah, it's from the 80s. It's a Yamaha MT8X. It's a 8-track cassette recorder. So I'm super interested in going down that avenue of some other creative recording endeavors and limiting myself to only 8 tracks. I've never had that before. It's kind of unlimited in the computer. So
Now you're aware they have more updated technology than that, right?
that's what I'm trying to get away from.
Well, and we're talking about IT and cloud-based and stuff today. And Andrea's over here. She has a fun story about learning about the cloud the other day.
Oh, great. Thanks, Bill. So, I had a little blonde moment the other night. I was trying to put some of the podcast stuff out there, and I'm used to copy and paste. And for some reason, my computer kept telling me it was on my clipboard. And I searched like crazy trying to find my clipboard. Couldn't find it. So I go into the office the next morning, and I ask one of the young women there. She starts cracking up laughing. She goes, "Andrea, that is your copy and paste. The clipboard is." I had no idea that they changed the name on me.
Where's the clipboard? Well, the clipboard is the cloud.
Dan, did you know that?
Who doesn't know that?
Yeah, right?
Dan, you did not know that.
I've never even heard the term used in that context. So no, I was not aware.
Okay. Maybe it's a generational thing.
Could be.
Brenda, what about you?
Yeah, that's a good note. Let's bring our guest in.
That's a good idea. This is, we'd like to introduce today's guest. Let's see, her name is Brenda. And she's walking in. Brenda Gerber Vincent, ladies and gentlemen. Yay! Please join us in welcoming her. Brenda, I would stand up and hug you, but I'm reading off of your bio here.
Okay. So Dan's doing this, but you guys have known each other forever. I think this is staged.
But she has a lot of stuff in particular. If you don't mind, I was going to share just a couple of things here, and then we'll let you tell your stuff. But Brenda works for Greater Fort Wayne, Inc., and she's the Chief Impact Officer there. Prior to that, she was the Indiana's Office of the First Lady Chief of Staff. And she also apparently is a really good snow skier because she is involved with the Aspen Institute. And so I have to believe that that's got to be a skiing
on
organization.
The ski team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the head office of the ski schools. And so we'll learn more about that as well. So, so you've got some other things on here, but I'd rather let you tell us and welcome.
Oh, thank you,
It's
Dan.
so nice to have you here.
Well, I am really excited that you invited me.
Well, good. And I can tell you.
I've been listening to the other podcasts, so I know what I have to live up to. So.
Well, I can't speak for the others, but I'm really happy that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, when we think about who we're bringing on, right? And your name popped up when we were first talking about starting this podcast. Yeah, so it's been set in there in here. We're like we know who we want on because they're community leaders, and we knew you from all the things you do in the community. I mean, I was reading off of a sheet like that. I think it was like 4 pages long. I mean, I'm like, what has she not done? You know what I mean? So I'm excited just to sit here and learn from you and hear more about you.
Well, thank you. And I owe you a debt of gratitude, what you've done for the Carriage House. So,
oh no, I appreciate that.
I
You know,
really
the Carriage
appreciate what
House,
you've done for us.
that's a good one. I mean, just to start with, you founded Carriage House, which helps the mentally handicapped, I would say, right?
mental illness. Really scared, like looking at the top 6, like the bipolar, schizophrenia, so major depression, so mental illnesses.
Yeah, and which, you know, that being said, what got you into that?
Oh, my brother Chad. So I had a brother who was 8 years younger than me, and he, in his freshman year of college, thought that he started the Gulf War, and we thought that he had been involved with drugs. In hindsight, we wish that had been the case. But mom and dad, both being in the medical profession, felt that they needed to find out what had happened. We thought either it was a brain injury. Now, you have to know this was 52 years ago. So at that time, we didn't talk about mental illness. We kept it quiet. There was so much, it was just cloaked in shame. So we didn't talk about it. But ultimately, my brother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And he lived with that for almost 10 years. And he died at the age of 29. But in that time period, I mean, I have a very strong faith. And my faith said that, you know, Chad's mission here on earth had been fulfilled. And that was through the Carriage House. And I always say, I'm going to die on a Wednesday. And I hope people say, oh, she was nice. But, you know, my brother who had really no value to society, at least that's how society viewed somebody who had a major mental illness, he went on to change thousands and thousands and thousands of lives and continues to.
Right.
So we established the Carriage House before Chad had died. And I'm a co-founder with other families. Several families are responsible for founding that and growing it. And then Chad's house, the International Training Center, was named after my brother.
Wow.
When was the Carriage House founded?
1997.
So I'm
25 years.
I'm a Carriage House newbie, kind of, right? So like I did the Dancing with the Stars, and it was a impactful thing
And won.
For me. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, and you won it.
Yeah.
He won.
Nice.
Yeah. Somehow. It wasn't my dancing, but
It's not about the dancing.
Yeah.
I've asked Dan for years and years and years, as Dan knows. Too.
hey,
Yeah.
it's Dan's time. He's on a podcast. He's
So back to Brenda.
But seriously, like, I thank you. You guys had me on the board and everything, and I learned so much through the organization. One of the biggest things, that takeaways from it for me was like, you guys bring whoever in to this Carriage House, and you start them from wherever they're at in life and just build their confidence.
Absolutely.
And I think that in general in life, you just said people don't talk about mental illness, right?
Right.
Even people who maybe don't have it as much, they still don't talk about their mental capacity. So, you know, I think it's super powerful that you did that.
So what is your interest in that organization? How did you get involved?
Right. So for me, there's different things. Like, I think that it's needed in our society where, you know, we have generations of like Gen Z, all these things that people are now realizing that, you know, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about stressful situations, anxiety, depression, all these things, right? And you can't just have it just sit and not talk about it. And so I think that's bringing huge awareness.
Yeah.
Very grateful.
Yeah. So
Brenda, talk about your. I think you've been at Brenda's at Greater Fort Wayne Inc., and you've been there since 2019, if I recall.
Right, 5
reading
years.
that correctly.
I just celebrated my 5th anniversary. It's gone so fast.
And the organization has really grown into itself and become a very, very strong economic development organization. Tell us about your role and what you see going forward for this group of people.
Absolutely. Well, first, we're celebrating 10 years.
Yeah,
So 10-year
congratulations.
anniversary of Greater Fort Wayne Inc., so super proud of that. It was the Economic Development Alliance, Leadership Fort Wayne, and the Chamber all merged 10 years ago to now have Greater Fort Wayne Inc. As you mentioned, I'm the Chief Impact Officer. I oversee 8 different divisions of our business, including advocacy, that's advocating for our businesses in Allen County at the state level, the national level, on the local level. All of our events, our signature events that we're known for, as far as our holiday night and our annual meeting, our golf outing, We do all the marketing and communications, so that's a really exciting area because it's really amplifying the 8,000 businesses that are in Allen County. 1,300 are members of Greater Fort Wayne, Inc. And we have what we call visionary investors, so I oversee that area as well. So all of our investor services, those traditional chamber more events fall under my leadership. And then Ellen Cutter serves as the economic development officer, and then John Urbans, our CEO, with Susan Wessner rounding out the executive team as our CFO.
Yeah.
That was pretty huge. 8,000
businesses
in Allen County.
I would, what I would venture to say, I may have to look up that data. It may be closer to 9.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
I can tell you when I came here in 1987, we actually counted about 9,000 businesses in the northeast part of the state. So if we're at 9,000 now in Allen County, we're probably closer to 12 or 13,000, I would say, in northeast Indiana.
And, in Allen County, it's a wonderful distinction. But for the last couple of years, we are the second fastest growing metro in the Great Lakes region. And that's 5 states. That's Wisconsin, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana. And Fort Wayne, Allen County, is the second fastest growing metro in all 5 states.
How about that?
That's faster than Chicago and Indianapolis.
And you're talking about population growth?
Population growth, domestic migration, people moving into Allen County from across the country.
Wow.
Not natural births. Those are people that are moving in.
Well, did you see that stat that Gen Zs, this is the
number
best?
One. Number one by Forbes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
to buy a home in Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne.
And there were what was another big name on there that we were above?
I think San Antonio was on there.
Yeah, there was
I have to look because once I saw Fort Wayne, I didn't even look down because, we are just getting so many of those accolades.
Right. And Andrea was like, we didn't buy that. It's from New York Times. Like, it's legit stat.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, people try to, buy stats basically, right?
Oh,
you can if you want.
Yeah, but that's not the case.
No, it isn't. And matter of fact, when we look at that, we talk about Greater Fort Wayne Inc. being a nationally recognized economy. We're there, right? We are nationally recognized for the work that we do. Case in point, Google just made their home for their largest data center in Allen County.
Let's talk about that. Project Zodiac.
Project Zodiac.
I was like, what is Project Zodiac? I heard, how many acres is it? First of all,
I think close to 800.
800 acres. And how did it start? What is Project Zodiac?
Well, I started with a lead from I&M. So Steve Baker was the one who originally the lead came in from, one of our esteemed leaders here in Allen County. And if you ask John Urbans, our CEO, he will tell you that the reason this project came to fruition is because of collaborative leadership, that people from I&M, the water company, electricity, the land, it took everybody, the city, the county, it took New Haven. It was a lot of people.
I heard water too.
Water. Oh, it took water because they really need a lot of water and a lot of electricity. So
to get the servers
because of the data center, right?
Center, okay.
And eventually, when it's built out, it'll be a 12-building campus. Wow. If you can think about it, it's larger than the footprint of GM. It's a very large campus on the southeast side. So we're very proud of that. But that's the economic development team. That's Ellen Cutter. That's Scott Naltner. That's John Urbans from the Greater Fort Wayne team, working in tandem and partnership with the city and the county to make that happen.
So how does it help the local economy?
Well, the tax base, and even though they were given some tax abatements, a 10-year, which is customary, right? Because we're competing against cities from all over the country for these projects, right? And we have to be competitive. So oftentimes we'll hear people who say, you know what, they don't need it. Well, you know what, we need it because we need to put together these competitive packages that we're competing with different cities. With that said, they'll still be the largest, probably the largest, if not the largest tax payer in the county, even with the abatement.
So how does that compare to I know a lot of servers and cloud-based companies are in Montana, right? And in different bigger rural areas, right? So how does that compare in size to this project?
You know what, Billy, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
I just think it's
They're way smaller than ours.
right.
Yeah, let's just answer it like that, Dan.
Yeah.
We're the largest.
Yeah, I just think it's crazy. And then there's another Meta thing going on or something, and
We have there's a couple other big projects.
So Project Zodiac, when they came to you, how was that? Since it's Google, is it intimidating?
Well, you know what? Again, it's undercover, right? So Project Zodiac stayed Project Zodiac until obviously the day that it was announced to our community. The only people that knew who it was, and they didn't know at the beginning. I mean, they were actually in our offices and we didn't know who they were. And then as time goes on, you have to sign agreements that you're, non-disclosures that you're never going to speak the name, only with a very, very small, circle of people who know who the company actually is. But that's not even until, down the line. So they're working with people that they don't know who the company is behind it. And then again, it's a very, very small group of people that know who the company actually is until it's actually formally announced.
So who named it Zodiac? Was that?
I don't know. I don't know who. And it was another name before that. I think it changed to Project Zodiac and then it moved to.
That was a good buzzword.
We were able to. Project Zodiac's a great name,
that's a
isn't
great
it?
name, yeah.
It is good.
I read the article. I was like, oh, that's kind of
So
cool.
now it's the Google. Or now
It's Google.
The Google project.
We've announced it, right?
Yeah. That's really exciting. When does this all start to happen? When do they start moving dirt?
It's my understanding that there's already work being done on the property.
Okay.
So
Very nice.
Are we going to see you out there cutting the ribbon with the shovel in hand?
You know what? I really put that's on our economic development team.
Nice.
So that's really John and Ellen. We will hopefully be very instrumental in not only the ribbon cutting, but the groundbreaking first and then the ribbon cutting. We want to celebrate Google. We want to bring them in. We want to make them part of the community. And that's kind of what I do, right? We want them to move here, but we want them to fall in love with Fort Wayne. Same with Amazon. The 3 Amazons that are now in Allen County. It's one thing for them to be here, but it's another thing for them to be completely involved in the community.
And are there local leaders at those?
There are.
At to say Amazon that
there are.
Because I've never met anybody who worked there, and I don't. Or do they get out into the community?
They do, and one of their goals, and it's slow, right? They're having a business that they need to get up and running, and it's obviously the size of them. But they've reached out to us several times. I've met with them personally about wanting to get more involved in the community, more involved in Greater Fort Wayne Inc., more visibility.
Yeah.
They want to be a part of the community.
Yeah, good. We'll look forward to meeting those folks at some point.
Yeah, and you're saying like marketing and everything like that's involved in this. Has that always been a thing you do? You like is marketing and.
Well, I oversee the communication and marketing and have an amazing team. I mean, we couldn't do the work without just the amazing leaders that are at Greater Fort Wayne Inc.
Right.
It's just an amazing team. And Dan pointed out earlier as we started this conversation, the growth that we have, that we've seen, the growth, it's first of all, because of our investors investing money into Greater Fort Wayne Inc. that allows us to do the work that we do. But it's also the caliber of leader that we have.
Right. Yeah. Cause I noticed too, like when you started your career, if this is right, it was in marketing for sports. Is that right?
AT&T. Oh my goodness, you did your homework.
Yeah, I did
Billy.
my homework. Yeah. So, but like
I even
I
forget
guess
those years.
I do like to know where people start and start from the origin of like how they got to where they are. Right.
Yes, I was with AT&T. I was with the Chicago Bulls.
There you go.
And that was in Michael Jordan's heyday time.
That's amazing. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. And I was down on the floor. We did the long distance shootout for AT&T. So
my goodness.
Pick the people from the audience. They'd come down. They'd shoot the ball. We'd give out prizes.
Yeah. And you didn't catch the flu from Michael or anything. And yeah.
I didn't. But those were fun years. That was when I was in Chicago.
Oh, that's amazing. And then Veer Bradley.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like, you're bringing, yes.
See, I'm digging.
I think it's all in here, isn't it?
It's there.
Pretty sure
It's
it's all
there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's the 4-page, thing I had to go through because you've done so much.
I love this community.
Yes.
As you guys do too.
Well, you're a native.
I am a native.
Yeah. So go back, if you don't mind, back and tell us.
Sure. I'm a 4th generation Fort Wayner. And that was something I was super embarrassed by in high school. I really was, because we were kind of like a dying community. It was the brain drain. You grew up here. There was nothing to do. At least that was our mantra. When I graduated from high school, I could have told you what restaurants were here and what was at the mall. I didn't know all the cool things, right? All I wanted to do was get out. I mean, this was a community, again, that people just, they left and they didn't come back. And not knowing how special this place was. But our family roots date back to the late 1800s. So 4 generations, my children are the 5th, and I've lived in 7 different metros. So in my career that have taken me to 7 different metros across the United States, big cities, small cities. I've really learned. So it wasn't just I stayed here. And that's what I try to tell young leaders. Go, learn best practices and then come back to Fort Wayne.
Sure.
and then bring them here. But I do think there's a magnet under Fort Wayne, because I think people do come, but they do come back. I mean, they do leave and then they come back. I've come back 3 different times, so I've gone and I'm never leaving again.
Well, so you weren't getting kicked out of those other cities?
No, I wasn't getting kicked out, but I did enjoy living. I was in Atlanta and I was in Orlando and I lived in Jupiter, Florida. I lived in some really cool places, but
Jupiter.
it wasn't Fort Wayne. And Fort Wayne is, in my opinion, is the greatest place in the United States to be.
Well, and it's one of those things, people are leaving Fort Wayne to go explore, but what if now is Fort Wayne is that place that people are coming to learn?
Yeah.
To explore here.
To explore here.
Well, I tell you, one of the cool things we're doing at Greater Fort Wayne Inc. is called Best in Class, and something we've not done before. And as I mentioned before, the high school students are leaving not knowing what's really here for them to come back for. So these are students in our high schools that are going on to universities. We want to make sure before they leave, they understand that they can work at L3 Harris and make satellites, or they can work at BAE and get into aviation, or they can be at the 122nd. I mean, there's so many cool things in Allen County. So we want to make sure that we educate our high school students to understand that there is so much here before before they're recruited to Boston or California.
Yeah, I love that, because you drive and you see these big buildings, you see these logos, brands, stuff like that. You have no idea what's going on inside. And so for that to happen,
we're going to.
That's impactful.
Absolutely. We do an economic development summit every year for our business community, but we thought, hey, what if we did that for our high school community?
And do you know
if
what
we
the
educated
drain
them?
rate is? Any idea?
We have a positive domestic migration. So we are positive for the last 7 years.
I'm thinking in terms of kids that go away to college and then don't come back.
I don't have the numbers on that.
Yeah, because I think that we're seeing a lot more of those folks coming back than we used to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we're intentional about our efforts. I know Dr. Daniel and Fort Wayne Community Schools, I know the other superintendents are doing a lot right now, not only in the skilled trades to make sure that people are here. We have enough HVAC and we have enough plumbers and people that we need for the trades, which is, really exciting that those trades are front and center.
Well, they're well-paid jobs.
Absolutely, they are, and you can have a great life by doing those jobs, and they're stable and secure. So I think that one of the things that our superintendents and our principals are doing right is giving the full scope of continuum, right? So from skilled trades all the way through universities. But the bottom line is come back and do it in Fort Wayne.
Love that. Well, we have
Speaking of local.
Yes, local. We have a Sasquatch walking in the background right here, because we are sponsored today by Sasquatch Tea, and it is a founded by veteran tea, and they have all different types of teas. It's really an amazing brand. And we talked to Tom Tittman, who's one of the founders, and he said, did you ever find like a cool tea? And I'm like, I don't know any cool teas. And so that's why they've started this brand. And we also have another sponsor, and Dan and I are both members at Pine Valley Country Club, and they have great dining experience, event experience, golf experience. They got it all. So on the north side of town there. So that's our sponsor time.
And the food's really good.
It is really good.
The chef, Brian Adams, plays guitar really well, sings, but he also is a great chef.
Yes.
Yep. You can see him at the embassy every now and then.
It's interesting too that you bring up trade skills. That's important to me with being in manufacturing. I just met with Dwenger. They're talking about a trade school, right? And I think that there's probably 3 or 4 that are starting to talk about this, because you only have an 89% of students are going to college now, 90% or something like that. So
90% of high school graduates are going to college?
Yeah.
I think it's more like 50, 45.
Is it? That's a big number.
Yeah, Dwenger told me it was like maybe it's just at Dwenger.
Maybe
yeah,
Dwenger students.
Dwenger, but across the board, I know it's much lower than that.
Yeah. So and you're like, well, what's everyone else doing? And so you got to structure it to how can they make money right after high school? And I know from my experience, welders, something like that, they're making good money right out of school, and so I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah, and Dr. Daniel always says the most important day of a student's career is the day after graduation. That's the most important because everybody should have like an answer to what are you doing
Yeah, some sort of
after
a
you
plan.
graduate, and they have a plan. And we're really working hard. Grow Allen
Yep.
is an initiative that just got off the ground. Very proud to serve on the board of Grow Allen, but it's really to address these issues from birth to graduation.
Well, yeah, everyone in high school, they're all asking you, like, what's next? You know, and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to college. Or if you ask them that, and you're like, well, I don't know. Some people don't know.
And we need to get our business community more involved, way more involved in the schools. So we open up opportunities where students can learn firsthand what these businesses are like.
I think Dr. Daniel's working on some initiatives like that. I know some guys that are retired business people who are, in fact, volunteering in the school system right now.
Yeah, he's so cool. I mean, he's really passionate about making a difference.
Yeah, that's great. Tell us about you personally then. So we're talking about work. We talked about some of your volunteer stuff. What is this Aspen, if it's not skiing?
I kind of like being on the ski team in Aspen. I think I'm going to go that direction.
Yeah.
No, you know what? In 2019, I was invited to participate in the Aspen Institute. It's a global think tank. And I had no idea, that really Aspen, really what it did. I've always been familiar with the Aspen Institute because there's a lot of dignitaries, a lot of ambassadors, the presidents. It's where people go to solve really big global issues. And
Does it stand for something? Aspen?
No, it's in Aspen.
Oh, it's in Aspen.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually in Aspen, Colorado.
Oh, very cool.
And so I was invited to attend. And I didn't feel like I was smart enough to be at the table because I felt like I was,
That was my first thought, too.
Yeah, you thought that same thing. So did I. But you know
By
what?
the way,
It
that's part
was to talk
That's part
about.
of the show.
Yeah.
I love it. But no, that's really how I felt though. But we talked about race in America. Now, this is well before George Floyd. This was to really talk about the integration of race in the United States. And here I was, a white, woman from the Midwest, and I just wasn't sure what I was going to be able to contribute. In my Aspen class, I think I was the only non-doctor. I mean, they were mainly doctors from prestigious universities from around the nation and around the globe. And so I did an amazing amount of work. I read 12 books, and I saw every documentary you could possibly trying to study my way where I felt like I could be at the table to be able to contribute. And what I learned when I got there is they just wanted my perspective. It wasn't about what I book knew. It was about what my life told me. And I can tell you that one of the things I draw on, and this is one of the things that was Aspen Institute really opened my eyes, is that I went to Snyder High School. I'm a proud Panther. But you know what? We had one school bus that went home every day, and that was at 2:20. And we were one of the first high schools in the city that were actually, we were busing in students from the southeast side. So, but if you wanted to participate on the football team or you wanted to be in drama club, there was no way because there was one bus that went home. And I know that if that situation was reversed, they would have had multiple buses. They would have, they would have found a way. And I realized then, because I could walk home, I could do whatever I wanted. And then I was, and my students, my friends who lived on the southeast side, who only had one bus going on, and maybe a single parent or didn't have an available car, they didn't have any way of getting home. Right. And so now we're competing against, and some of these friends could just run circles around me intellectually. When we went to compete to go to college, my resume was chocked full, 2 pages long of activities. And you put my resume next to one of my friends who was much smarter than I was, but didn't have the opportunity because those weren't.
Because they had to ride the bus home.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so you know what? So universities didn't take that into consideration. They just looked at it. So you know what? I've been profoundly affected by that. And so my Aspen Institute experience wasn't about what I learned. It was about what I've experienced.
That's interesting.
And are you still involved?
I still am involved. Matter of fact, the gentleman who brought me to Aspen, I just hosted him here in Fort Wayne several months ago. So that was really exciting to have me. I've also spoken on panels in Washington, D.C., and I've also been on several national podcasts for Aspen.
Ooh, so I knew she was good at this. I was like, how is she so good at podcasting?
Yeah. No, and your experience as the governor's, I forget the title now, but
Chief of Staff.
Chief of Staff, his wife. Tell us about that experience. How did that come about?
Absolutely. It was the most amazing experience. Well, I was a political fundraiser. So if you go way back in my history, I've had fundraising as a thread that's gone through all of my career. I love raising money for things that I'm really passionate
Good stuff.
about.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of it because I see the impact that the dollars can make. And so I have done political fundraising, nonprofit fundraising, and university fundraising. I had just come off a political campaign. I raised money for a mayoral race here in Fort Wayne. This is 12, 15 years ago. We didn't win. And at the end of that, I got a call from Mike Pence, who was then Congressman Mike Pence. And he called and said, I'm interested in learning more about your talents as far as.
Did you know him?
I did not know him.
No.
I knew of him, but I had never met him or ever talked to him. And he said, I'm running for governor for the state of Indiana. Would you consider helping raise the money for my campaign? So I was the deputy finance director for a year. We raised $16.4 million. It was a thrill.
Wow.
We traveled all over the state of Indiana. We had I always called it the red carpet tour because it was an amazing experience to see Indiana from a political governor's campaign where you're speaking all over the state.
So that's what kind we were bringing in is like politics, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like, how long ago was that?
That was when he was governor, so that would have been, 2015,
Okay.
16?
So my only really experience with politics was when I was like in grade school. I was chosen to go to the Indiana state capitol, and just for the day. And so two things I remember. One of them was they took us down into like the offices, and like it is like underground and no windows. And I'm like, man, this seems like not a great workplace. But two was we all sat and like they were doing voting and on everything. And I just remember everyone just yelling, just like, yeah, like a bunch of guys just like, yeah. And maybe one no to things. But I feel like it was like, if you scream the loudest, you get the vote.
Oh, and now it's a quiet vote.
Yeah,
now
so
you just push a button on your desk.
There you go. So that's like the changes in politics. Like, I don't want to get us in trouble about talking politics or anything, but
I figure they were probably playing some sort of game and they were cheering when they won.
Right. Do you feel like it's shifting in a positive direction?
No. I think our country's in trouble.
Yeah.
Like I am deeply concerned with the divisiveness in our country.
Yeah.
Deeply concerned. Working for Mike Pence, regardless of how you feel about his policy, and I don't agree with any politician 100%. And I had differences of opinion on things, but able to civilly talk about it and work through things because I think sometimes if we can come in the middle, then we can. But I think that our country is so divided.
Right.
And working for a political figure like Mike Pence is completely led by faith. And you get who you get all the time. He is who he is. There's not a behind the camera and in front of the camera. He is just his values, his integrity, the way he leads his life, the way he makes decisions was admirable to me.
Right. And the country was built on division, right? And it was a good thing because then you get different perspective. Now division just causes more division, right? And my question is like, what do you think is going to bridge that? I mean, I obviously like on a community level, like I think that we can make a change, right? And that might lead to bigger and better things outside of our community. But what is your
from a country perspective?
Yeah.
Well, from a community perspective, I think that that's the secret in our sauce is that we are, regardless of R's and D's and I's, we work well together. We are a collaborative bunch. We get things done. We are driven by results. I mean, I have a very different view of what R's and D's should look like. I am a Republican based on three things, right? I want a smaller government. I think that private industry can do it better than government, right? I believe in a strong military. I believe that I should be able to go about my day and have our government be protecting me and my family. That's really important to me. And, again, I believe like that nonprofits can do it better than government agencies as far as taking care of. I'd be a smaller tax base. That's kind of what I believe.
Right.
But I don't let the social issues take me in a different direction because our country needs to get back, in my opinion, to the basics of what government was built on. And these social issues, people will be a one-issue voter, right? We'll pick one issue and we'll say that's it. I've been very vocal about that. I think that some things that take voters off of the of what we should be focused on is, let's say, healthcare issues. There's women's healthcare issues that are legislated, and I don't think they should be. I think they absolutely should be in a healthcare lane. And I think
what's an example of a mandated women's healthcare issue?
that decisions that the legislators make on behalf of women, whether they can have an abortion or not.
Abortion. Yeah, okay.
Right. And I believe that's a healthcare issue. I believe that's between a woman and her doctor versus between a woman and a legislator. And I know we're getting deep here, but you asked me a question and I want to answer it. Yeah. Where can we get back on track? I believe there's a middle ground. I really do. And I believe in what I believe in, but I also believe because we're having so much trouble, let's pick the top 4 areas that our country is divided on. Immigration, let's talk about, some of these big issues, and let's come together and solve those.
Yeah.
Because I think right now, the divisiveness is taking us off track from what we should be focused on.
Yeah, it's like under our roof, what things are going on there first, right? And like Mother Teresa says, like, let's clean up our doorstep first.
Right.
And then, that's kind of the way I view it, right? So there's so many ways that you have impacted the community. What's the why? What's your why? Like, what's your motivation? Well,
you know what? My why is, and it's really interesting because I've had to think about that over the years.
Yeah.
What does motivate me? And I will tell you that it is watching other people succeed brings me the greatest joy. Watching our community succeed brings me joy.
No, I love that. Yeah.
But I think that's that's what gets me up every day.
Yeah.
Is there's so much potential in people. There's so much potential in our country. There's so much potential in our community. Watching and being a part of that success it's energizing.
Yeah.
So what have we not asked you that's important for you to talk about today?
Oh my gosh. We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we have.
Yes.
And we could have dove into any of those subjects for a very, very long time. I probably am going to walk away thinking I spent too much time on my politics. And I hope that, again, it's what I believe personally. It's what guides my principles.
Well, don't look for an invitation to come back anytime soon after that.
Right? Just burn that bridge. But, I think we do need to be able to talk about our views, and we need to find common ground.
I think this was perfect, though,
I
because
think we all agree.
Yeah, and we've had so many, even just with our 3 guests, right? We have so many different perspectives, so many different areas of expertise, and I think this was perfect because this is one of the things that's important and one of the things that we haven't really discovered or talked about. And one of the big things about our show is we talk about balance of life and all these different things, right? You have a family and you're 4 generation. I was like, what was the first generation? What were they?
I have come from a long line of physicians.
Physicians, okay. Yeah, and that's why probably you're with Parkview now and everything.
I am.
So you just keep building and building.
I
love a good magician.
Yeah.
I think they're awesome.
Yes.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
So what's next? That's all. What's next?
You know what? I can't wait. My best years are ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I think we have as leaders, we have this accumulation of knowledge and accumulation of experiences. And then I think it's our responsibility to give back to the younger generation.
Yeah. So can you tell us, like, what's next for Brenda? I want to know.
There's so many things, right?
Yeah. Just keep building out that.
I never want to stop learning.
Yeah.
What?
I think you should run for mayor.
Oh. You know what? I mean, obviously, I would love that. That would be. I don't live in the city, so that's right now.
The mayor of Huntertown.
The mayor of Huntertown. I could definitely run for that. But I think I can make a biggest. I can make it. You know what? I think I can continue to make a difference behind the scene and to pour into policy and to help young leaders. And again, I don't care what you believe; just believe in something and know why you believe in it.
I love that. Yeah.
This is one thing. So Brenda and I are in a wonderful women's group together called Business Women Forum, or Women's Business Forum, sorry. But we went on a retreat a couple months ago, and one of the things I learned from Brenda, which I've learned a lot from Brenda, I love being with her in this group. She just brings so much knowledge, so much commitment, so much mentoring, love, friendship. It's great. But I have changed my ways I start my morning because of something that Brenda does every morning, and she shared with us. And I have done that every morning since November when you told me this, and it has totally changed my way of accessing my day.
I know.
Going
It does
through
for
my
me
day.
too.
So
it does
I
for
would
me
love
too.
you to share.
Yeah, what is this?
Absolutely.
What is
Amazing.
the secret
So
sauce?
you know what? Well, the secret
It
sauce
is.
is welcoming each new day as an individual, right? It's like I wake up and I'm like, "Good morning, Monday. I have not met you yet, and I can't wait to see what you're going to bring. The experience, like the challenges and the excitement, and who's going to be a part of this Monday? Because there'll never be another Monday like this Monday."
yeah.
And I do the same thing on Tuesday, and I start my day with a sense of excitement. Is I have no idea how this day is going to unfold.
Right.
So that's how I do it. And then I do prayer and scripture, and I listen to the same song by Josh Groban. The song is Thankful, and that's all before I get out of bed.
That's way better than Mark Cuban. You know what he does every morning? He wakes up and he lays in bed for an hour and looks at emails. I'm like, man, that's this is a way better way to do it.
You
Right,
mentioned
yeah.
your children,
Yes,
and you also have a husband.
I do.
in the mix.
The best husband.
Do you want to share a little bit about your
my
family
goodness.
with us?
Absolutely. I'm married to Scott Vincent. Very proud of that. He is the most. I never thought I'd find love in my life. That's to be honest. I was married before, and I always say that I was married for 23 years and he was married for 5, so it didn't really work out. So I'm not going to disparage him. He is the father of my 2 beautiful, talented children, but it wasn't the best situation for me.
Sure.
So when I was divorced, I decided that I was never going to do it again. And then in walks Scott Vincent, and he's been the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life.
Congratulations.
He has 2 beautiful children. I remember when we were dating, I fell in love with his children, and so much so that over dinner he said to me, "Now you love me as much as my kids, right?" I said, "Well, I don't know. It's close." And then I have 2 children. I have a daughter who has 2 daughters. My 2 granddaughters, Bailey and her husband, Evan. They're both in private equity, just north of San Francisco, live in Marin County, and have just built a beautiful life out there.
Very
and then
nice.
I have a son who lives in Los Angeles, and he is a music writer. So he does a lot of feature pieces for New York Magazine, has written for Rolling Stone and The New Yorker. So
Hey, there you go, Jason.
He's
You need that contact. There you go.
So he's a
No,
very,
I tell you,
yeah.
if he continues working and trying really hard, he could potentially be a writer for Business People magazine at
That
some
would
point.
be awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? If it would get him back here, Dan, I would be all for that. And then I have two. I don't call them step. I call them super. So I have 2 super children, and one lives in Nashville. She's married and has a daughter, June. And then my son lives right here in Fort Wayne, and he is the creative director, Nick Vincent, at Pine Hills Church.
Wow,
So,
that's
nice.
great.
So
Hey,
4
yeah,
beautiful children.
your family grew overnight.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
and I'm so blessed.
great.
I'm so incredibly blessed to have those 2 super
Yeah.
children, and then to be married to my husband.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in today.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we
Dan,
really
thank
appreciate
you
it.
for inviting me.
You're
I
welcome.
could sit here for another hour.
I know that's the best part. This is a good time, and we're so happy to have you here. It
Well,
really is.
thank you. You
Well, and then-
guys keep doing this. I mean, this is a wonderful way to get to know leaders at
That's the plan. Yeah.
at a base level.
Next time we have you on, we'll be announcing your becoming mayor. Is that what it was?
Mayor
Of Huntertown.
Of Huntertown.
Watch out.
Huntertown.
See, there's people in Huntertown. They're going to be nervous that I'm going to.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm not running for mayor of Huntertown. If I can just make that clear,
rumor
I'm really
start.
happy with what I do. I just have a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
No, it's great. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brenda.
Boy, me